Hey everyone, this is the video for lesson 9.6. It's on completing the square. It is probably my favorite section of the entire book. I love this method. I think it's so much fun. The good thing about it is that there are just clear steps that you have to follow. So when I was in high school or middle school, I thought this method was so difficult, and that's just because my teachers didn't have like a clear way to do it. So I hope that this way is clear and makes sense, and you have like a really good like path, like you like, oh, I know I have to do this step next and then this step. That's my goal. All right, so why do we use the completing the square method? So we use it to solve general form equations, so like ax squared plus bx plus c equals some number. Before, we really couldn't solve those. We would plug them into our calculator, plug that into y1, and then plug the other number into y2 and see where they intersected. Now there's a method. We also use it when we go from general form to vertex form. So remember that vertex form is that transformed form, like y equals a, x minus h squared plus k. So now we know how to go from, we know how to go from general to factored. We know how to go from vertex to general. We can go from vertex to general to factored too. So this was the last one, going from general to vertex. Oh, we know how to go from factored to general. If I didn't already say that, I don't know. All right, so the method. And I'm just going to give you the list of stuff. It's not going to make much sense until we do a problem. So just write this down and we'll refer to it. So the first is get the x's alone. Then it says to use the box to find the square. And that would be the bottom right square. Now when you make this box, like the rectangle diagram, both sides have to be the same. So like x plus 5, x plus 5, x minus 12, x minus 12. Okay, that's a huge part. Then you add the square to both sides and simplify where possible. Then you factor. Then you solve by taking the square root or by getting y alone, depending on the type of problem. So if you're taking the square root, that means you're solving. If you're getting the y alone, it means you're transforming the form from general to vertex. Okay, so I have 3 examples, I don't know. Solve the equation x squared plus 6x minus 1 equals 0 by completing the square. So this is that first method where I said we solve a general equation. So here's your equation. First I said get the x's alone. So the only one without an x is the 1. So that 1 has to get over. Now you use the box to figure out the square, air quotes. So we try to use the box on this thing. So first, you know, to get x squared, you have to have x and x. So there's x squared. Now I'm saying these two boxes have to be the same in order to get 6. So two numbers that add to 6 and are the same are 3 and 3. So I get 3x and 3x, which means outside the box is 3 and 3. Now finish the bottom right. That's our square. 3 times 3 is 9. So we're going to add 9 to both sides and simplify where possible. I can simplify this right side to 10. Now my next step is to factor, and you look right back at the box. This is why you really should draw the box, because you use so much of it. When you factor, you look at the outside. So I have x plus 3 and x plus 3. So x plus 3 times x plus 3 is x plus 3 squared. So this thing goes from general form to factored form. Okay, they're the same thing, just written in a different form. And it's still equal to 10. Now you solve by taking the square root. So if I take the square root, I get plus or minus the square root of 10. I bring 3 over to be negative 3. So I have x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 10. That is it. Not too difficult, I hope. I'm going to make it harder. So this time, solve the equation 3x squared plus 18x minus 8 equals 22. The difference is that there is now a coefficient out at the front, so it makes it a teeny bit harder. It's like one little extra step. It's not bad though. Again, we're going to do this by completing the square. So I get the x pieces by itself, which means the 8 needs to go away. Now my new step is I need to factor out a 3. These both have a 3 in common, so I'm going to like reverse distribute here. They both have a 3, so I can take a 3 out. 3x squared divided by 3 leaves me with x squared. 18x divided by 3 gives me 6x. And I only have to do it to the left side. Now I divide that 3 on both sides. So I'm left with x squared plus 6x, and that's equal to 10, because 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now that the x's are by themselves, there's no coefficient, I do the box. This is the same box as the last problem. I got x squared, two numbers that add to 6 that are the same, 3x and 3x. So 3 and 3, 3 times 3 is 9. Now I take that and add it to both sides. Simplify the right side. Factor, so remember I do x plus 3 times x plus 3 is x plus 3 squared. Take the square root, make sure to put plus and minus, then bring the 3 over. So that's with a coefficient. Last one is changing form. We're going to find the vertex form of this equation. So this one is one of your high-level hard problems because you're going to vertex form, which is a little bit harder, and there's a coefficient. So that makes it a little bit, it's like double whammy right there. So the steps are basically the same. You get the x's by themselves. So in that case, you minus 21 on both sides and it stays with the y. So you have y minus 21 and these x's are by themselves. You factor out a 2 because they both have a 2 in common. So if I take a 2 out of 2x squared, I'm left with x squared. 12x divided by 2 is 6x. Divide both sides by 2, so I'm left with this weird fraction thing here, but you just work with it. It just kind of stays. It'll go away eventually. Now that I have these by themselves, I can do the whole box thing. I'm not going to do it at the top because it's literally the same box for the last two problems. For whatever reason, the book chose the same base for all three problems, and I didn't have time to come up with my own. So again, we're going to add 9 to both sides. No simplifying possible here because I have fractions, so you leave it this ugly thing. But this you can factor. Of course, remember it would be x plus 3, so it's x plus 3 squared. Then you start undoing. You try to get the y by itself, so you minus 9 on both sides. You times everything by 2. So if I times this side by 2, those cross off. If I times this side by 2, I have to multiply both things by 2. So I have a 2 on the outside of the parentheses, but I also have to do negative 9 times 2 to give me negative 18. Then I add 21. That's my last step. Remember, get the y alone. So I add 21, and there it is. So I have a equation in vertex form. This was in general form. These are the exact same things. You could graph them in your calculator, and they would show the same graph. This one gives you so much more information. Okay, so in your quiz, you're going to have to tell me what information you know about this parabola, so get ready for it. Here's your assignment. 11, 12, 13 are a review, and I love those questions. I think 13 is the one that I really like. It's about factoring. And 4 is the one that really practices your completing the square skills. All right, so that's it. Make sure you're taking good notes. You take your Google form quiz, mark as done, and have a good night.